And we're back.
Hello again.
For the review
of
Root. Yeah, we just finished the game. You can see the links down below for the first half of the game, the overview, and the extended playthrough. And what I'll do really quickly is just go over the rules for the remaining two factions.
Yeah.
Just because the rules are less than ideal. And then we'll go into the review.
It's one of your hobbies to criticize rulebooks.
Yeah, because there's no reason for them to be.
As a rulebook connoisseur.
Right. Okay, so the first of the two
he
factions
keeps a copy of the Alchemist rulebook under his pillow at all times. It's really adorable.
Is the Woodland Alliance. And their fun faction, they're
represented by the foxies, right?
Yeah, they're foxes, cute little foxes.
I like the
or whatever that means.
The hands that are I don't know, supposed to represent something and not look like dismembered hands.
Right. So they're right, and so the way that they work is that they start off with no warriors, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
They do, however, start with supporters because thematically what they do is they sort of gain the trust of the local inhabitants of the wood, and then they sort of rebel and move them into their forces. So very high level, what's happening at the beginning of the game, they can, I think, put 2 or 3, I don't remember, of these tokens anywhere on the game board.
Mm-hmm.
And these tokens are used for both ruling a clearing. So for example, they rule now this clearing, as well as for crafting. So whenever they can craft, they use these as sort of, the ability to craft. So that's one thing. Now, let's just go over quickly the passive abilities. So, first of all, there's Outrage, which means that whenever a player removes Sympathy or moves into a clearing with Sympathy tokens, that player has to give the green player a card matching that clearing, right? So they sort of gain a lot of cards when people either battle and remove these tokens or just move through or move into these clearings. And we'll get to the reason why they need cards in a second. If that player just doesn't have a card of a mouse or a bird, they have to show their hand, show the fact that they don't have a card, and that player just gets a random card from the deck. So in other case, the green player will get a card. And those cards are added to the supporters, and we'll get to that in a second. They're not in their hand, they're just part of the supporters. The other interesting thing is, and that's called Guerrilla War. In battle, they will always, both as a defender as an attacker, gain the higher roll. So basically, they don't want to initiate battle, but they are very well suited for defending against battle because they will get the higher roll regardless. And then Birdsong. So first of all, they can revolt. Revolt means spending 2 supporter cards, matching a clearing with a supporter's token on it to begin with. And then they remove all enemy pieces. So it doesn't matter how many enemy pieces are there, they remove everything. So once basically they have a supporter, a token, all these people are very much stressed out because using a very simple action, or revolt, and spending 2 cards of the matching icon, they just remove everybody. And they gain points if they remove buildings or tokens, right? Everything moves away. And they get to place that clearing's base, okay? And they only have 3 of these, 1 of each icon. So they don't do that too often, but they can, okay? So now they have a base, and that base, we'll get to that in a second, will start generating warriors, right? But unless they have a base, they cannot generate warriors.
Right.
So that's revolt. Again, that doesn't happen a lot. And the second thing that happens in Birdsong after they finished revolting is that they spread sympathy, which is basically this. And this is their main mechanism for generating VP. Very much similar to the cats in that sense. What they need to do is just spend supporter cards based on clearings adjacent to where they already have supporters. So let's say I can put a supporter here. And basically it's just one card. Oh, it says here, it's one card if they want to put this supporter, and then it gets more and more expensive. There's a sub rule here if there are 3 or more warriors in a clearing of a single type, then they have to add another card. So here would be at this point removing 3 of these cards. Not the end of the world, and then they just get VP. Okay, so 1 VP, let's say I want to do it again, I spend the supporter cards, I put it here, and then I get another VP. Great. That was just, spreading supporters.
So mainly they do it through that and through crafting, because I don't see enough points here to win.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And then crafting. Yeah. Okay. And then daylight. So in daylight, they can take these actions as many times as they want. The order doesn't matter. They can craft using sympathy, just like anybody else. They can mobilize. Mobilize means moving a card from their hand into the supporters. So that's one way of making sure that they have enough supporters to, spread those supporter tokens, sympathy tokens. So that's mobilize. And then they can train. Train means that they spend a card from their hand matching a built base. So in this case, I need to spend that to move one of my supply workers over to the officers. And officers dictate the number of actions they can take in the evening, which those are the moving and the battling. So they need to have officers here in order to do the military actions. So that's training. And then in the evening, for other factions, evening is just drawing cards, right?
Yeah.
But in the evening, they actually move. So depending on the number of officers, they can do military operations, which is moving, recruiting, which is placing warriors in bases, battling, and organizing. Organizing means that they can remove, let's say they moved here, they can remove a warrior to place a sympathy token without spending supporters. It's basically, it's either supporters or warrior that can generate these sympathy tokens. And so they want a lot of warriors.
A lot of officers.
A lot of officers, yeah. They don't have a lot of
but do you remove
tokens
from the officers?
No, they stay here. Yeah.
Okay.
And they have relatively few of these tokens.
So if you have too many officers, you're restricting
or too many,
yourself.
right. So you need to be in a balance. So that's basically that faction. It's really interesting. They can sort of, surprise you by putting a sympathy, and then next round, if they have enough supporter cards, they'll just remove everybody, and they start with their base there. So it's a really interesting faction to play with. Let's just really quickly go over the last one.
The Vagabond.
Yeah, the Vagabonds are really tricky to learn. I'm not going to go over every single rule here, but they basically, very high level. Yeah. First of all, at the beginning of the game, they just choose one of the 3 types of Vagabonds, and that's it. It's just there for the rest of the game. They have special abilities, not really interesting, just to add some variety. What then happens is that they play with these items, right? So for example, just to give it a sense, boots, they need to spend boots in order to move, right? So the more boots they have, the more they can move. The greater amount of swords they have, the more strength they have in battle, okay? The more coins they have, the more cards they draw at the end of the turn. So they mainly deal with tokens. Now, how do they gain tokens? First of all, they can craft just like anybody else. And for them, it's really useful. The other option, they can use these torches to reveal items that are under these ruins. So there are 4 ruins in every game, and just when you play with these vagabonds, you place randomly tokens beneath them. You don't know that they're there. I mean, what type of item is there, and the vagabonds can spend a torch in order to get the item, and they clear the ruin. So that's just another place for other players to build, and they get that token. Now they have obviously a limit to the number of items they can place here in this satchel. That's a 5, but the more bags they have, where are the bags? Here. The more bags they have. Sorry, it's 6 items here. The more bags they have, that's an extra 2 items they can put, they can carry,
so
basically.
So it goes up to 12.
To 2, 4, 6 plus 6, 12 items that they can carry. Okay, so those are the satchels. As you can see, I oftentimes sort of exhaust an item to use it. At the beginning of their round, using, they can refresh 3 items. And the more tea they have, they can refresh 2 extra items per tea that they have.
But the tea is permanently there. It's not used.
Correct.
Very good.
Right.
So that's up to what?
3 plus
items?
3, 9 items. Right. Now they have a lone vagabond token. I don't know, meeple here. It's not a warrior. So they never control a clearing. They can move wherever they want. They never rule a clearing. They never disturb other people from ruling a clearing. And it is in battle never removed. When they get hit, they just need to damage items. Okay? And there's a way for them using hammers to then move those back up. Or they can actually hide in a forest. So as their movement, actually they can move into a forest, and then if they start their turn in a forest, they can also sort of fix their items. So that's an interesting thing. And the last thing that I want to mention is that at every point in the game, they have 3 quests they can fulfill. In order to fulfill a quest, it's really easy. They just need to have these 2 items. It's always 2 items. And to actually be in that clearing. So let's say I have the crossbow and the torchlight, and I'm in a mouse clearing. I can then claim
Fend off a bear.
Fend off a bear. And then I can do either of 2 options. I can either just draw 2 cards, or I can get 1 point plus 1 point for every mice card that I already completed. So this will be 1 point. If I complete this mouse quest, I'll get 2 more points. So it sort of, wants me to perhaps go in a single icon and then just do a bunch of quests and get all of those items real quick. And the next thing that'll gain them points, this is also interesting. They have...
Too many tokens, honey.
No. It's just items and these tokens. So basically, they have relationships with other factions. So that's really interesting. They start off with sort of no relationship, but then as an action, if I'm here with the cats, I can aid them. Aiding means that I need to, I think, remove a card. Doesn't really matter, and I give you a card, probably of that faction, I don't remember, and then I can take items from you. So I can just take this item, and now it's mine. I don't
lose anything.
You don't lose anything. That item didn't help you in any way, shape, or form, so I just take items. Now, if I aid you once, you will be here. Let's say you're the cat, and I'll get 1 point. If I aid you twice in a single turn, in a round, turn, this moves up 1, and I get 2 points. And then if I aid you 3 times, meaning giving you 3 cards, I'm not restricted by the number of actions I can do in a turn. If I can give you 3 cards, doesn't matter if I take items or not. That's just a bonus. If I take 3 cards, I give you 3 cards, then you move I move here, sorry, your token moves here, and then I get 2 extra points. So I gain points by aiding other people, giving them cards, and also completing quests. So that's, I don't want to get too much, but it's very clear each item and the thing that it can do. Moving, exploring, aiding, quests. Striking is just removing a thing, a warrior or a token. I can battle, I can repair or craft cards. That's pretty much it. So they're very interesting. They also, if they battle with another faction and they actually remove a warrior, then they no longer, have a relationship. They're hostile, and that means that they must exhaust an extra boot if they move into a clearing with that faction whom they're hostile with.
And can you ever be unhostile?
No. And then they score +1 victory point if they remove a piece, which is anything basically, through battle.
Okay.
So they can choose to be hostile. So those are the 2 factions. I do want to mention another component in the game that isn't used in a 2-player game, which are these dominance cards. And that's another way for players to win, not through victory points. So what happens is you just gain them normally, randomly through the deck.
Yeah.
You can take one if you want to read. And you can basically play it at any time. It doesn't cost you anything. And from that point onwards, you actually move your victory points over to that card. And from that point onwards, you can no longer gain victory points. You don't care about victory points. The only thing that you care about is that you rule, in this case, 3 mouse clearings. And at the moment that I rule 3 mouse clearings, I automatically win.
Yeah, I understand why that doesn't exist in 2 players. That would be very unfun.
Yeah. So you win the game if you rule 3 mouse clearings. For the bird cards, it's just ruling 2 opposing clearings, doesn't matter which, and then you win the game. And so it's sort of a way for, in a multiplayer game, if you see that you're not going to win through victory points, this is sort of a fail-safe mechanism, which is to say, okay, you know what? And the thing is that you don't get these cards only randomly through the deck. If any player discards this card, let's say for the suit, they just go over to the side, and then on your turn, you can discard a mouse card to get this card into your hand, and then you can play it. So they sort of stay on, publicly in the game state, because people do want to use it perhaps for other things and not just hold it. And then everybody has a chance to gain them and then to sort of switch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are basically the 2 factions
that we did not show.
Right.
And there are a couple of expansions.
Yeah, there are 2 expansions. Right. So there are 2 expansions, each with 2 more factions, which are also really interesting. And it comes with another map. And there is an alternative deck that you can play with, just with cards that do other things, just these things. And
but they're probably distributed the same.
Yeah. So yeah, that's basically what's available for Root. So do you want to start?
Starting with the review, you mean?
Yes.
Well, sorta. So I just want to be clear up front. This is not a game for me. So
right.
I when we talked about it before we started, me and Idan, before we started shooting the video, I decided that I will not review this. Maybe give a couple of caveats about things you should think about before you buy this game. But I feel like it's unfair to say that I didn't enjoy it when it's not the type of game that I enjoy.
Right.
Like there was no way. We knew from the onset, from the explanation of the rules, that I'm not gonna like this, and that's perfectly fine. So what I want to mention, first of all, is that Root requires a very specific type of mindset and a very specific type of friends, because you will suck at this the first time you play. And when you bring new people to play with you, they will suck at this the first time they play. That's just the way the game is. The factions are very different. You can't look at someone else and try to see what they do and think about it and maybe learn the game as you go along. You kind of have to dip your toes in the water and just go with it and understand that it's going to be frustrating and it's not going to be fun the first one, maybe two playthroughs. So,
like imagining, having 4 players around the table, everybody
and
needs
only
to
one
rock.
person knows the rules.
Hopefully, hopefully, yes, yeah. So that's a steep learning curve. Yes.
So it's not that horrible. Like if you have people who are like-minded or really like games like Scythe or stuff like that, then they'll get this, but they won't get it the first time they play it. They will be frustrated by it the first time they play it, and that's fine. That's just the way it is. The game is asymmetric, the game is deep, and the game requires learning the nuances of every faction to play them, and just deal with it. Accept it for what it is.
Yeah,
love it for part of the game.
I do want to mention in that regard that the game comes with, I'm not going to pull it out, but the game comes with actually like 3 or 4 cards that every player gets their first game, and literally that card tells them what to do. So if you want to sort of, have somebody tell you what to do, just so that you'll get a sense of the different actions, that there's that option. Every player just gets a card, he plays that card, he tells that card exactly what to do, just so that everybody gets in the motion.
Which is a good idea.
Yeah. And then they can play whatever, but yeah. They tried their best, that's what I'm trying to say. They really tried their best at
I'm sure they did. A lot of love was put into this, and it's very clear.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to mention is that there is luck here. I haven't played all factions, so I can't tell you exactly how luck dependent the game is. But I, for the first, 6 rounds, did not draw a single wild card. And that really impacted my progression. And that's just something you have to accept and just roll with it.
Also,
the game
the dice.
has the die. It's a die. I don't like dice, but it's a die and it does what it does, which is randomize things.
Yeah.
So you add the die, you add the cards, and you have luck.
Yeah.
So keep in mind that this is a major factor in the game.
Yeah.
If you're planning on playing this with little kids that are easily frustrated, prepare to undo things.
Yeah.
So that's what I have to say in front of caveats. The game is quite deep. There's a lot of love put into this, and there's also a lot of thought put into the themes of how the forest interacts and how different creatures interact within the forest, and how the factions play very, very differently with each other. It's very interesting, though not for me.
Yeah. So I totally agree. I don't think it's a game for me as well. However,
you played around 50 hours of it on your iPad.
Correct, because I really like the game, just not playing with other people. The fact that, let's talk about me and then talk about recommendations. So for me, the fact that I can finish a game of Root in 15 minutes on the iPad, and if I see that I'm losing, then it's okay. It's going to be over in a minute or two. I can just restart the game if I really want to. So it's no problem. So sort of, biting into the game and learning the various factions is a very intellectual, interesting thing to do, because you have to adapt. You have to look. There's a lot of mechanisms here, and they feel very thematic, and it's really cool. So I really like the iPad game. I don't think that I would want to play this game, the physical game, with other players, unless everybody knows the rules and we can just, get it done within 20, 30 minutes at most. Because otherwise, just imagine that there were other people that then, we all played around this area while another person is just trying to get another point.
Yeah, not all factions can lose points, so I don't think
this is the only
annoying.
One. Yeah,
but it can be very frustrating when someone just stares at the board for 5 minutes trying to get that extra point.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's a horrible feeling. So, let's just yeah. So I really like the fact that the factions are completely different.
The art is adorable.
The art is amazing.
The cards are very clearly explained.
Right.
There's nothing. Like, once you understand the basics of the faction, there are no questions about the cards.
Yeah.
And
the player boards are very well built.
Most of your questions are here.
Right.
Like, anything you want to ask about the rules during the game is here. And that's really, really, really well done.
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of the app, I could also say very, very good things, from the music to the sound effects, to the animation, to the UX of the game. Everything is really, really well done. You can compare, for example, Root to Scythe, and Root is like 3 steps above Scythe in terms of the not sophistication, the level of finesse of the game itself.
The polish.
The polish, yeah. There's a lot of polish. You can see them, dancing and playing music and chirping, and it's a really, really amazing implementation of the board game. So I'm really looking forward to the expansions going over to the digital implementation as well, because that's an auto buy for me. And just like you said, I've played, I think, 30 or 40 games. The game comes with challenges, so it's not just the same game every time. You can play with sort of, again, special rules that apply that make things a little bit more tough. And they're also very thematic and very interesting from game to game. So it's not just playing the same game every time. So overall, excellent. Go download it. It's really cheap, and you'll enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that I can say anything else about the game. Definitely not for us. In terms of recommendations, yeah, again, I totally agree with what you said. If you're a group that likes war games, then this is a very, I can recommend. I mean, we're not war gamers, but I think this is a very good recommendations for that game as well, for those players as well. And if, again, just like you said, if you're a group that, doesn't fall into AP too much, so that the game will flow and nobody...
Or okay with some frustration that comes with luck and it comes with learning curve.
Correct.
Not everyone's
right
as easygoing about these things, and it's fine if you're not.
Right.
It's fine if you are. If you are, you will enjoy this a lot more.
Right, yes. Yes, it's definitely... It has parts of it that are more experience, right? Meaning, just like Millennium Blades, where the experience is really a part of the game enjoyment, not just analyzing the game from a analytical standpoint, because it's too much to grok in the first few games.
Yeah, it's very difficult to optimize unless you're thoroughly familiar not just with your faction, but with the factions that are
the cards
opposing you. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So
highly recommended if you're the type of player who will enjoy this. If you're wondering whether you should dip your toes into the Root ecosystem, try the app, try the PC version on Steam.
Yeah.
It's not that much of an investment. See if you like it.
Yeah. I can say again, I'm not a war gamer. I don't tend to like these types of games, and I really like the iPad implementation. So if you're like me, enjoy the iPad implementation or the digital implementation. Yeah. All right. So without further ado, we hope you found this video enjoyable, and there are links down below for the overview, rules overview, and the extended playthrough.
Yep.
Anything else?
They're adorable. I love the board. I love the cards, and I don't know, love the tokens. So
yeah.
Can we keep the tokens without playing the game?
Yes, can just get the tokens. All right. Bye for now.
See you next time.